September continued. This time we'll start with Jessica. Fade in. LS of the classroom. We see Jessica and Danielle sitting in the book area with two classmates. Others sit at their desks, and a few are still trickling into the classroom from the hall. Miss Newberry is visiting with Mr. Terup like she does most mornings before the start of the school day. Cut to Jeffrey, rushing through the back door with a crying baby in his arms and a black duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Jeffrey, I found him on the side of the road. Jessica voiceover. It wasn't going to be a merry-go-round year. We were on another roller coaster that took off the moment Jeffrey walked in with that poor baby. The best roller coasters always include lots of screaming and yelling. That's part of the fun, but I wasn't screaming and yelling with excitement this time. I was holding on to Danielle. Pull back. Miss Newberry hurries to the classroom phone and calls 911. Mr. Terup rushes over to Jeffrey and takes the baby. He kneels and gently places the crying infant on the floor. Mr. Terup, what's in the duffel bag? Jeffrey, what's in the duffel bag? Jessica voiceover. Jeffrey stood blank-faced, staring down at Mr. Terup and the baby. Shock was clearly setting in. He probably hadn't had time to think about the situation when he was busy caring for the baby. But once he handed over him to Mr. Terup, I saw Jeffrey's body go weak. Mr. Terup, Jeffrey? Jeffrey, snapping out of his trance. What? Oh, I don't know. Jeffrey bends down and opens the zipper on the duffel bag. He pulls out diapers and wipes. Perfect. Let me have them, said Mr. Terup. Jeffrey hands the diaper and wipes to Mr. Terup. Mr. Terup under his breath. Well, at least they left him with something. Jessica voiceover. I don't like saying this, but when Mr. Terup undid that little baby's dirty diaper, it reeked worse than Danielle's barn. I had to turn my head away to keep from gagging. Cut to Mrs. Williams entering the classroom unprepared. Mrs. Williams. Oh, my goodness. Her hands fly up and cover her mouth. Miss Newberry walks over and hugs her. The two women are both teary-eyed. Jessica voiceover. I understood why they were crying. This baby hadn't been left on the side of the road. Where was his parents? I thought about Anna. How would she react to all of this? I felt Danielle squeeze me, and that gave me some hope. I knew her prayers were with that baby. Cut to an ambulance and police car pulling up to the classroom. The paramedics and police officers hurry inside and take over for Mr. Terup and Jeffrey. Mr. Terup stands and puts his arm around Jeffrey and pulls him close. Miss Newberry walks over and leans into Mr. Terup. She puts her head on his shoulder and he wraps an arm around her. Mr. Terup to the both of them. Don't worry, everything will be okay. Jessica voiceover. Would it? Mr. Terup was playing the role of the comforter, trying to make everyone feel better. I wonder, would he have told us the same thing last year when he was lying in a coma? Would he have said that to us then? Don't worry, everything will be okay? He would have been right. I hope he's right this time. Paramedics tend to the crying baby. They check him all over with various instruments, and then they hook up an IV. Miss Newberry to Mr. Terup. I need to go to my classroom. My students will be wondering where I am. Mr. Terup. I know. Go on. It's okay. I'll see you after school. Miss Newberry leaves, her eyes welling with fresh tears. Jessica voiceover. That would be the only time I saw Miss Newberry with tears in her eyes this year. Or that wouldn't be the only time. That's kind of a clue. Cut to Peter running into the classroom and stopping. Luke, Lexi, and Anna burst in right after him. They all look paralyzed. They're like statues, unable to move or speak. Cut to. A paramedic lifts the baby off the ground and carries him to the ambulance. A second paramedic walks beside them holding a bag of fluid that's attached to the baby. We see the ambulance doors close. We watch it drive away. Cut to LS of the classroom. No one has moved. It remains silent. Camera zooms in on Luke. Luke. Mr. Terup, where are the baby's parents? And fade out. Luke. I barged into the classroom just in time. The paramedics were bent over some small, soft, wailing bundle. My ears told me what it was, but I took a few sideways steps so that I could see it to believe it. Sure enough, it was a baby. The baby was sucking intermittently on a wet washcloth, which explained the muffled cries. I also saw that an IV had been started. I knew from my previous science studies and Boy Scouts that the baby was suffering from dehydration. What my experience and background knowledge hadn't prepared me for was the answer Mr. Terup gave my question after the ambulance sped away. Mr. Terup, where are the baby's parents? I asked. It appears he was abandoned, Luke. Mr. Terup said his mom and dad didn't want him, so they left him on the side of the road. Jeffrey found him this morning. Our classroom was still and full of nerves when I walked in. I didn't think there was room for any other feelings, but after Mr. Terup said that, a shocked sadness consumed us. The air I breathed felt heavier. How could anyone do that to their baby? That was when the police officer in attendance told Jeffrey he needed to talk to him since he had discovered the baby. It made me realize this was a case for a detective and that everyone had made a huge blunder. Important evidence had been ruined when they cleaned up the baby. Questions. Who and where are the baby's parents? Will we ever know? Detective Luke.